Today, I'm going to be surviving the next 100 days in Minecraft Hardcore, but there's a twist. Everything looks like the Minecraft trailers. What will I build, and can I even survive these 100 days? Well, you're gonna have to stick around to the end to find out. Anyways, this is 100 days in Minecraft Hardcore, but it looks like the trailer. Hope you enjoy. So, day number 1, here we are in our brand new Minecraft world. The first thing I did was look around and realize how cartoony this place really looked. I mean, no wonder, it's a replica of the Minecraft trailers. I made my way over to a tree and punched it down for its wood. I crafted up a crafting table along with a wooden pickaxe and then moved straight on to mining up some stone. And while you watch me mine up some stone, I want to quickly mention that I'm trying to reach 200,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you end up enjoying today's video, then consider subscribing. But now that I had some stone, I used it to craft up some stone tools. I decided to kindly escort animals out of this world because I wanted some food. And then I ran around the world exploring this land. I didn't have to run far until I found myself right next to a massive ravine cave looking thing. I slowly made my way down inside it, and then I fought off a zombie, as well as starting to mine up some ores such as this coal, as it would be necessary for smelting later on. I also realized that the ores would reflect light off them. I thought this was really cool when looking at the copper ore, but now equipped with many ores in my inventory, I decided to leave the cave and started running around for quite some time to find a place to set up my house. I spent a lot of this exploration time admiring the views. The texture pack along with the shaders and mods combined for a pretty awesome experience. I crafted up a furnace and then started smelting all the food to replenish my hunger that I was quickly losing. I ate some pork chops and then went on my way. While watching the sunset, I also noticed that there was a village right next to me. So I decided to sleep, and now this was going to be the home where I would spend the next 100 days. Waking up in the morning, I decided to check out the village. I found it funny the way these villagers would walk, but besides that, I started raiding the village. I stole a brewing stand from one of the buildings and almost got instant karma after nearly falling to my death, but we're fine. So I continued to look around all the buildings, taking whatever I could get my hands on. Also, I quickly crafted up a stone hoe and used that to break the hay bales, because for those who didn't already know, using a hoe will allow you to break hay bales a lot quicker. I saw the iron golem. Honestly, I could have let him live, but the reward of the iron seemed a lot more important to me at the time, so I towered up and took the iron golem out. Now that I had went through the village taking whatever I could find, it was time to find the area that I would build my house. I scattered out the top of a mountain looking for the perfect spot and eventually found the area. However, I would need to do a ton of terraforming if I ever wanted to build the house here. I placed down my furnace and started smelting the iron that I had collected from the previous day, and also placed down a smithing table which would invite a friendly villager to come over and take the job. Now, little did I know, this villager would be very important in the future, and you guys will soon see why. I crafted myself a shield and a stone shovel, and then ran over to an area where I could start digging up some dirt to do some terraforming in the next few days. Unfortunately, the shovel broke, so I had to come back home and make a new one. With the new shovel, I returned back to the dig site and then spent the rest of the day collecting more dirt. And then continued the task of digging all the dirt for a little while, and soon later, it was time to put the dirt to good use. I started to build out from the mountain just to get a rough idea how big I want this extension to be. The dirt that I had spent the last 2 days collecting was going to be nowhere near enough for the extension plans that I had in mind. So to start day 4, I used 2 iron ingots and made myself 2 iron shovels. I'm sure you know exactly where this is going. I don't want to bore you all with this dirt mining, so let's just jump straight on to day number 5. From the 2 shovels that I had crafted up the previous day, I managed to accumulate just under 8 full stacks of dirt. So I used this all to extend out the new area. I found that the original size I had built out this area to be, so I decided to practically double its size, but with only 3 stacks of dirt left, I couldn't really make much progress. It didn't get me very far, but that's all good, because we have plenty of time to finish all this off. I crafted myself a bucket with 3 iron, and then went over to the village to collect some water from the well, and I also took the crops from the villager farm. Using the water and the new crops from the villager farm, I thought it would be a good time to set up my own farm, which would be bigger and better than the farm from the village. I started doing some land preparations by removing any grass blocks that would be in the way, and then moved on to actually building the main part, the farm itself. Using water that I had collected from the well in the village, I placed it in the ground and then started tilling the land around the water source. I added another water source and then I tilled that land as well, and then finally moved on to adding all the seeds that I had, such as these wheat seeds, carrots, and potatoes. Now that I had a working farm that could passively get me more food, it was time to go mining. However, before we did that, I had a few last minute preparations to do. The main important important item that I wanted to get was some more food. So I cooked all the food that I had and then placed down some more dirt on the brand new platform, collected some wood, crafted an iron axe, pickaxe, as well as an iron chestplate, and then I started going around looking for a good exposed cave where I could get myself some valuable ores. The first cave that I had found had some coal and iron. These were useful, however, I was looking for more. I wanted to get myself those shiny blue items, the diamonds. So I left that cave and then went looking for a bigger and better one, which is exactly what I found. I started quickly collecting some other materials such as iron and coal, and then I found an amethyst geode in the cave walls, so I mined into it, and I think I've found my newest favorite block in this world by far. I went further down into the mines fighting off mobs, mining random ores, and looking for diamonds as well. Soon I found my first diamond, and then from there on, I started getting more and more. Although this took quite a few days to get enough diamonds, I think it was worth it because now we can survive a lot longer. I looked around a little longer. This time it wasn't for any ores, but it was actually for a lava pool. I quickly located one, crafted up a diamond pickaxe, and then pushed through mining up 14 obsidian, which I could then use for a portal and an enchant table later on. And now that I had the diamonds, it was time to return back home. I started digging straight up and soon making my way to the surface. However, once I got onto the surface, I had no clue where I was, and I'm not joking when I say this, I spent the next 10 to 15 minutes trying to make my way back home. Once I did find my way back home, I put the diamonds into a crafting table and crafted up the fancy full diamond armor. I also wanted to craft up an enchant table, however, I didn't have a book and I also had no sugarcane, so off I went exploring for some sugarcane. First night down and I hadn't managed to find any, so I crafted up a bed and continued for the next day or so. While running around, I found this really cool mountain that isn't really important, but I just thought I should mention it for some reason. Soon after running around for a little while longer, I stumbled across 2 sugarcane and then returned back home. I planted the sugarcane, then built up a portal with 10 of my obsidian, and then went to the nether for the first time in this world. I collected some netherrack and glowstone, which I would then return back home, decorate the portal in the overworld a little bit. I thought by adding the netherrack to represent the nether leaking into the overworld or something could look pretty cool. It's the most basic design I could have done, but I mean, hey, it worked pretty well. Using a golden shovel from one of the ruined portals when I was exploring a few days ago, I started to mine up some grass since it had silk touch on it. Using the grass that I had just mined up, I returned back to the nether and started replicating the nether portal design in the overworld in the nether, if that makes any sense. In the nether, I also nearly died by not paying attention where I was running. I'm not even joking, I survived on half a heart. Running around in the nether with fog is quite hard, especially when you want to locate the nether fortress. Oh yeah, if you couldn't already tell, that's exactly what I'm in the nether for. I want to locate the nether fortress to get some blaze rods. I had to mine through a lot of walls, which got pretty annoying, but I just dealt with it until off in the distance, I saw the nether fortress. So I ran towards it and looked for the blaze spawner. Once I found the blaze spawner, I started mining the blocks around it to increase the spawning rates. I'm not sure if that actually works. I just saw speedrunners do it all the time, so I decided to do it myself. I spent quite some time taking these blazes out until I ended with about 9 blaze rods in total, so I could then go back home. Now that I was back at home, I went to check on the progress of the sugarcane, but to no luck. Probably since I was in the nether the entire time. So instead of waiting for the sugarcane to grow, I once again went out in search for some more. But this time, I came across a jackpot of sugarcane, finding 11 in total. And after collecting the sugarcane, I made my way back home in the rain. I woke up the next morning and took a look at the pretty cool sunset. I then went around running to find some cows for some leather, but for some reason, the one time that I needed to find these cows, I just couldn't find them. Soon, I ran so far that I found the second village, and using some iron, I crafted up an iron hoe, and then used it to break all the hay bales, as well as take all the crops from the farm. I made my way back home with all the items I needed, and then finally crafted the enchant table. And using the brand new enchant table, I used some lapis from the previous mining session, and started enchanting all my armor and tools. Also, something that I noticed when in F5 mode is that I now shine with some particles around me. That's actually really cool. And then finally, to finish the day, I continued extending my farm. It was now time to start working on my brand new house. In the Caves and Cliffs Part 1 trailer, we can see the house Steve is building. We see that this house has a copper roof before he gets knocked off from a goat, so I thought I should do the same myself. I went exploring for a cave that could supply me a ton of copper, and then I went around mining every single bit of copper ore I could get my hands on. Some caves had limited copper inside, so I had to leave them and enter new ones just to keep up with the demand of copper that I was going to need. I was also going to need a lot of coal to smelt this copper ore, along with some cobblestone as well to craft up a ton more furnaces. So I made sure to collect those two materials as well. So once collecting all those materials, I came back to the surface, crafted up 9 new furnaces, and spent the rest of day 29 melting all the copper and using all the other materials that I would need for my house build. I crafted up all my copper into copper blocks and then used a stone cutter, which I could then turn all the copper blocks into copper stairs, as they were the only real copper related blocks that I would need for the house, besides the lightning rod, which would go on top of the roof. Now that I had all the materials together, it was time to start building the frame of the house out of oak logs. I wanted to go for an L-shaped house. However, before I could make any more progress, I had to collect some more cobblestone, as I would need to use all this cobblestone for the walls of the house. I went into a hidden cave under the ground and started mining away, collecting as much cobblestone as I could get my hands on. Well, not exactly, because if that were the case, I'd have an infinite amount of cobblestone. Anyways, it was now time to start building up the house. I began filling in the walls with some cobblestone and then filling in the gaps of the walls with some glass panes, and now it was finally time to start putting the copper to good use and build the roof out of the copper stairs. I used the lightning rod on the front of the house as well, and then started filling in the rest of the roof using the copper stairs. Unfortunately, I didn't have the exact amount of copper that I was going to require to finish this house, so I went and found a small little mine and mined up any extra copper that I could find, then returned back home to finish off the house. To add some decorations, I made a little path by right-clicking the grass blocks with my shovel and then started using torches to light the area underneath the platform that I had created a few days ago. It was around this time that I realized the villager from way earlier on in the beginning of this world was still here. This villager had battled through all the hardships of the horrible weather conditions, rain, hail, and shine, and has stuck by us this entire playthrough. And now I wanted to give him a name, but we couldn't do that without a name tag. So using sticks and string I had in my inventory, I crafted up a fishing rod in hopes that maybe I would get lucky and fish up a name tag. I built up some terrible temporary looking pond thing and then got to fishing. I fished for quite a while, in fact for the rest of the day, but sadly I was just too unlucky to find a name tag. So before I could embark on my next project, I went ahead and started doing some extra farming. I collected all the crops, replanted them all, and dramatically increased the size of each of the farms. I tilled a bunch more land, also doing the same with the sugarcane farm, and then I also crafted a golden apple with some spare gold and a spare apple obviously, and then for the rest of the day I went out looking for a massive cave again, because I was now going to look for some chests, but not any ordinary chests, the chests we can find in the mine shaft and the dungeons, because I needed one item, and that item was a name tag. I found myself in a mine shaft which had a few chests, minecarts, but some of them didn't have a name tag. However, once I went deeper into the mine shaft, I began getting a ton of name tags from all these chests, and in fact I ended up with about 3 name tags, which was extremely good. When I got back home, I couldn't find the villager anywhere. I looked inside the house, outside the house, inside the farms, even in the nether. There was a village in the nether, however it wasn't the real one. He was nowhere to be seen. However, once I returned back home, he was just casually walking on top of the mountain as if nothing happened. I crafted an anvil and used one of the name tags. This villager was going to be called Gerald the Great, because Gerald is just that great. And there we go, that is the beginning of the Gerald Empire, or something like that. To finish the rest of the day, I had to collect more dirt, so I enchanted my shovel and then made my way back to the area that I had been collecting all my dirt from, and spent the rest of the day just digging up all the dirt. Continuing this into the next day, until I had started to use the dirt by filling in rest of the platform, and also begin working on the underneath parts. Using the dirt and some stone that I had mined up, I continued terraforming this area. I wanted to make this area look as good as possible, and I wanted to make this look like a cliff edge. So that's exactly what I started to work on. After a few days of work on the cliff edge, it had been completed. About halfway through, I decided to not use the dirt from the walls, so in the end, it was just completely entirely built out of stone. I spent some of the day back at the farm collecting all the crops, and of course replanting them. Using some bone meal, I started bone milling the land on top of the cliff where my house was, just to add some grass and flowers, because I thought it would be cool to add some extra details and make the area look a whole lot nicer. After doing that, I went over to some trees and started cutting them down for some wood, so I could use it for some decorations. Inside the cliff edge, I had just covered up, there was a ton of space underneath, so I thought it would be a cool idea to make everything look somewhat decent inside. And then I could use this area for my storage room, where I could place my chests, chests, enchant table, furnaces, and whatever else I might use. Once the staircase was complete, I went and chopped down some more trees for some extra wood, and then started filling in the floor with oak slabs to flatten it out. I started moving everything into the new area. I placed down a furnace, and then for some reason, I decided to craft up another 15 furnaces. I moved the anvil and placed the enchant table down, then I went and added a ton of chests. And after doing so, I now had a very good storage area to store all of my items. And then I started moving everything down in the storage area. I started moving all the items from the chest outside into the new storage area. There were quite a lot of items that I had to move back and forwards and sort neatly in the storage area, so this was going to take quite a long time. It was now time that I decided to do something different. I entered into the village right next to me and started raiding each house for all their beds. I then went over to the second village I found a little while ago and took their beds as well, because now I returned back home and spent some time in the nether trying to get some netherite. I went down to Y level 15 and then used all the beds I had collected. After using an entire inventory of beds and most of my pickaxe's durability, I thought it was time to return back home. Unfortunately, only collecting 5 ancient debris in the process, only enough to craft 1 ingot. Returning back from the nether, I started smelting all the ancient debris and also smelted some of my raw gold I had in my storage. Then, using all those items, I crafted myself 1 netherite ingot. I started collecting some more dirt and clearing out some grass blocks to make way for a little build site. I wanted to build a couple of things in the next few days, and I couldn't do this without the extra land. My current tools wouldn't hold up much longer, so I went back inside, crafted myself a diamond pickaxe and a new shovel, as well as enchant both of them, combining the new diamond pickaxe with my old one, even though there wasn't really any point in doing this. And then, using the dirt I collected a few days ago, I went ahead and started making another flat area where I could use this for the later on builds I had in mind. Here is where things get a little strange. Basically, every single clip for the next 15 or so days decided to corrupt and is extremely laggy to watch, so I had to re-record all the gameplay. But in doing so, the XP bar and other items in my inventory may be different due to this reason, so hopefully you guys understand. The first thing I wanted to do on this new land was build up a quick animal farm, so I went over to some trees and started chopping them down for some wood. Before I did anything with the wood, I also started collecting a ton of cobblestone for a few house builds I had in mind as well. But now that was done, it was time to start using this wood. I started building up the animal pen and brought over some animals to fill up this area. And there we have it. We now have a small animal farm. In this area, I also wanted to extend out the village, so basically it was quite easy for me. All I had to do was really just copy the house designs from the village. The 2 houses that I decided to actually replicate was a small box house, and then there was a larger L-shaped house, and honestly, adding these to the area made it look a whole lot better. It was time to head back to the nether, but this time it was to collect some ender pearls. I wanted to trade with the piglins for some pearls, but to do so, I needed some gold, so I went around mining all the netherrack gold ore, and then trapped some piglins in a hole to trade with. I ended up with around 12 ender pearls by trading, and just to be extra safe, I didn't know if this would be enough, so I went around looking for a warped forest biome. I found this biome and then started destroying every single enderman in this area. A little time later, I collected around 16 ender pearls in total, so I could head back home, and started clearing out my inventory, putting everything away in the chest. Afterwards, I started doing some preparation. I crafted a bow, a diamond axe, and a diamond sword, then enchanted it all as well. For some reason, this portal was extremely far. I had to run for quite a long time to actually get there, but that's what I did for the next few days. Soon, I found myself directly above the stronghold due to the eye going straight down, so I dug straight down and located the portal. I ran around for what seemed like forever until I found the portal room. I crafted up 10 more eyes of ender and then placed it into the portal frame, lighting up the portal, and then I jumped straight in. I was now in the end. I mined out of the end stone room to find myself in front of a ton of obsidian pillars and the ender dragon. With all my eyes, I started shooting out all the crystals. Take a look at this place. Everything is so dark and moody. It's so hard to see anything. I kept missing all my shots, but eventually I took out all the crystals and then I moved on to shooting the dragon. I started shooting at the dragon with my bow, and after many arrow shots later, I took the final swings at the dragon with my sword and took it out. I collected all the XP and the dragon egg, then made my way over to the end gateway. Here we are. We're now in the outer end islands. Being here was horrible. I could barely see anything more than like 20 30 blocks in front of me. It was hard to locate anything, especially the end cities. Also, now that I think about it, I probably ran past like so many end cities in this time as well. Yeah, that's not very fun. However, after running around for a very long time, I finally found an end city when it came into my render distance. So I ran over to it and started attacking all the shulkers. I slowly made my way up through the end city whilst also being attacked by many shulkers. Yeah, this got quite annoying. I looted the chests at the top of the room, and inside I got an efficiency 4 diamond pickaxe, and then I made my way to the very top of the building, literally the roof, which is when I got an idea which would involve me mining up a ton of these purple blocks. So I spent some time collecting a few stacks of these blocks. Afterwards, I thought it would finally be time to visit an end ship where I could finally get my hands on the elytra. I took out a shulker, then stole all the instant health potions from the brewing stands, then made my way into the main room, guarded by another shulker, though I took that one out pretty easily. I quickly looted all the chests, taking an efficiency 5 unbreaking 3 shovel, as well as a protection 4 diamond helmet. Then it was finally time to take the elytra. We were so fancy now, shining with the diamond armor and the elytra on our back. I went back outside to take one final item from this end. It was the dragon head. Then it was time to jump off and fly all the way back home. Yeah, I also got kind of lost when making my way back to the end gateway. Since going through the end portal sends you back to your respawn location, I was lucky I placed a bed in the stronghold, but besides that, I went ahead and made my way back to the surface to collect some wood. Since there were no trees nearby, as we were literally in a frozen ocean, I had to make do with my surroundings. I started taking all the oak planks from a shipwreck. Honestly, I'm not too sure how this ship managed to get up here, but I'm certainly not complaining because it was in a very convenient spot for me. As soon as I had enough wood, I returned back down into the stronghold and crafted myself a chest, which I would then turn into a shulker box. But why a shulker box, you may be asking? Well, it's because I came back into the end and started mining away at all the endstone. Now, during this time, I mined up way more endstone than probably necessary. I was going to use all of this for a build when I returned back home, but I actually hadn't calculated how big I would want that build to be. So I mined up excessive amounts just in case, because I mean, it's better having more than less. If I collected less, I would then have to run the 2,000 to 3,000 blocks back to the stronghold just to mine up more endstone before returning back home again. It would have just been a massive pain, so the extra effort I put into collecting this endstone may have been worth it in the long run. Using the efficiency 5 iron shovel that I had found in one of the end city ships, I started to clear out a very large area of dirt. Since I could instantly break all this dirt, I found it pretty satisfying and went a little overboard with this as well. Since it was a lot of blocks to break and it was only an iron shovel, I also had to take a few breaks to repair it. But I returned back to the dig site to clear out more dirt after doing this. Once again, I think I went a little overboard, and now it was time to build up a very basic house, but this time it's with some end blocks. I did some trial and error when building this final house, because up until now, I didn't exactly know the shape or size I wanted this house to be. The only reason I decided to build something like this is because I thought it would be cool to build a house out of all these end city blocks, especially with the purple blocks. I decided to go with a similar shape and size to my main house, although soon after building it, I realized it would have to be quite a bit smaller because I still only had a limited amount of purple blocks. I used the purple pillars to replace the oak logs that I usually use in my house builds, and then filled in the walls using some endstone bricks. I then filled in the roof with some purple stairs, and then started replacing all the floor inside my house with some endstone. And there we have it. Since I had completed basically everything I wanted to do in these 100 days, I went ahead and crafted myself an iron hoe, enchanted it, and started extending out the farm, extending it as much as I could before reaching the edge of the mountain. I also noticed that the villagers were back. All the villagers besides one. Gerald was still gone. I saw a villager had taken the same profession as Gerald, so I went down into my storage area, grabbed a new name tag, and gave this villager a brand new name. Gerald the Great the Second. We will miss Gerald. I spent the next day going around looking for a horse. Not sure why, but I thought it would be necessary for me to get a pet in this world. It took a little while to tame the horse, but eventually we tamed it. Then I placed a saddle on it and set off into the horizon. Well, we ran back home, but I thought that would sound a lot cooler. And then finally on day 100, it was the final day, and I wanted to test my luck. I wanted to see if we could get any wither skeleton skulls for the end of these 100 days. So I I went back to the nether, but with my awful luck, I couldn't get any wither skeleton skulls within the limited time I had left. In fact, I think I only got to kill 3 or 4 wither skeletons in this time. So instead of that, I just fought off some blazes for the rest of the day. So that was 100 days in Minecraft Hardcore, but everything looks like the trailer. If you did enjoy, consider dropping a like and subscribing, and check this video out next.